Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is June the 29th, 2026. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Monday, happy Garfield Day. Hopefully you got that lasagna, a little garlic bread, a little wine on the side. Hopefully it's been a good day for you. As for me, as for mine, I did get a piece. I did get a nice slice of that thing. It's been a good day. I woke up overall feeling pretty good. I will say, had a little bit of physical issues or whatever, but they seemingly kind of mellowed out throughout the day. Knock on wood. Hopefully it stays that way. But overall, it was good. We got up, got ourselves together. We got to work. Work was nice in the sense of, yet again, I had one more off day for my coworker, so I got to stay at the Crusher all day, which was good, which was wholesome. We love to see it. Post work, I headed to the gym. Gym was good. We got in there, got a good pump, got out. I will say it's a bit of a bummer because I won't be able to go to the gym for the rest of the month, actually. They are going to be installing new equipment in my Planet Fitness. So I'm curious to see what that's going to be. I'm gonna wait to say excited. You know what I mean? We'll see what it looks like and, how popular that equipment is, because obviously if it's going to be too busy, I don't get a chance to use it, then what good is it to me? But, who knows? We'll see. Let's see. Also, I'm going to be doing some moving, not for myself, but for my beautiful, wonderful girlfriend, come Wednesday. So that being said, just a heads up, might not be an episode for Tuesday or I know for sure not Wednesday. I'm going to be busy, but, we're going to do what we can. For today, for sure. Get some news in, yap it out. Don't you worry now. But anyway, post the gym, we got home, did a stretch, had our snack, did some research for today's episode, and here we are, ready to yap. So yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup and let's get into some news. I guess when I really think about it, this does line up in a way. Since I'm not gonna be able to go to the gym, I'm just gonna be lifting like heavy boxes and bins and stuff. So, there's that. That'll be interesting. A good actually test in the wild of my strength, so to speak. Here's hoping I don't like throw my back out or something. Knocking on that wood. Ooh, also a bit of an add-on from last night's episode from the weekend recap. I forgot to mention, Zoe and I went on a late night Wendy's run, and I did wind up just posting it on the Patreon. So, my little extra thoughts, I hadn't updated that in a while. So there you go. You can always just go check that out and peep the order. I'm gatekeeping it today. What can I say? But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the news. From Al Jazeera. Pakistan says its security forces killed 29 fighters along Afghan border. Pakistan's security forces have carried out a ground operation and airstrikes along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border in response to deadly attacks, killing 29 fighters, officials said. In a post on social media, Pakistani Information Minister Atullah Tarar said the operation was launched in response to multiple attacks by armed groups across the country. 3 targets in Patia, Pakata, and Kunar were destroyed during precision strikes, Tarar said on X, referring to 3 eastern Afghanistan provinces. Dude, I always hate when I hear the term precision strikes, only because I feel like these are words that you are trying to use to say, hey, we did the best we could to hit the targets we were intending to hit. But that doesn't absolve you for when these precision strikes kill innocent fucking people. The Afghan Taliban government's deputy spokesman, Hamdullah Fitrat, said the Pakistani strikes killed at least 36 civilians and wounded 163 others. The Afghan Foreign Ministry announced that it summoned the Pakistani charge d'affaires and handed him a protest note regarding the violation of Afghan airspace and the bombing of civilian homes in the eastern provinces of Kunar, Patia, and Paktika. There you go. I think I said it better that time. Pakistan earlier announced that it had summoned the Afghan charge d'affaires and handed him a strongly worded official protest note. A statement from Pakistani foreign minister said the summons followed an attack in Karachi, southern Pakistan, on Saturday. Pakistan has witnessed a surge in attacks targeting police and security forces in recent years. Authorities have blamed the Pakistan Taliban, known by the acronym TTP, and allied groups for most of the violence. And it's like, okay, I understand that you're focusing this on this group, this terrorist group or whatever, but then you're using that to say, hey, whoever we kill, it's because of that. It's self-defense. And, we've talked about this before in any of these kind of conflicts. When you are doing that kind of aggression, it's an atrocity for an atrocity. And either way, I'm going to look at you and say, well, why did you kill those innocent people? It's just not justified. So, it's very unfortunate to see this, kind of unfolding. I don't cover every situation that comes out of this region. But, I do try to cover big moments when I can, when I see them. So, I saw a number of 29 people dying. I was like, okay, this seems like a good time to kind of update, the situation. And there's more details here, but we're going to go ahead and move along for the sake of time. The next two stories are Supreme Court related. We're kind of trying to just belt these out real quick as well. From the Associated Press, Supreme Court rules states can count late arriving mailed ballots, rejecting Trump-led challenge. The Supreme Court on Monday ruled that states can count ballots that arrive after Election Day, a persistent target of President Donald Trump. The 5-4 decision rejected a Republican-led attack on laws in more than half the states and the District of Columbia that permit mailed ballots to arrive and be counted some number of days after the election, provided they are postmarked by Election Day. The outcome spares officials the headache of changing their ballot rules just a few months before the 2026 midterm congressional elections. In just over half these states, the more forgiving deadlines apply only to ballots cast by military and overseas voters. To me, this shit is just common sense. It makes sense to have the law, work this way for ballots to be counted this way. But this is part of the campaign that Trump has launched because he hates the idea of mail-in ballots. Even though when you look at these kind of things, it's part of the reason why he got elected on both occasions. Especially on the second one. Like, his base uses these just as much as he thinks the liberal radical left uses mail-in ballots. But, he won't be swayed by this. This is all part of his SAVE Act, which he's also just pushing this as saying, hey, this is all the more reason why we need that and why I can't pass a snoozer of a fucking bill like the housing bill, okay? Like, the SAVE Act is much more important, okay? Don't you get it? Let's see here. We could go on. I will say I was surprised this was a 5-4. This is one of those times where you would expect the majority, the conservative supermajority to say, oh, well, this is a slam dunk for us. Let's just rail this one on through. But they're like, no, we're going to use some tact. We're going to, play like we're a bit moderate here. Let's see. I think they do have the readout of who's who. It looks like Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts were the ones who said, no, we're going to side with the liberal justices on this. And then you had Thomas Alito, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh saying no, this is stupid. We need to change this. We need to fix this. But, whatever. Moving on, though, to the second from the NBC News, from the second Supreme Court ruling that I wanted to cover. Supreme Court rules Trump can't fire Fed member Lisa Cook, grants him more power over other independent agencies. So this was a bit of a mixed bag. Part of this I liked, another part of it I didn't like. The Supreme Court delivered a setback to President Donald Trump on Monday, rejecting his attempt to fire Federal Reserve Board member Lisa Cook, while in a separate case giving him a freer hand to exert control over other hitherto independent federal agencies. The two decisions issued at the same time, and both authored by Chief Justice John Roberts, together marked another example of the conservative majority court pushing back one aspect of Trump's broad exertion of executive power while giving him the green light on another. Trump may not fire Cook for now. The court allowed him to remove a member of the Federal Trade Commission, Rebecca Kelly Slaughter, in the latter case. The court overturned a key 1935 Supreme Court ruling called Humphreys Executor versus the United States, which upheld restrictions on the president's power to fire FTC members. Which I don't get why they split this. And I guess they said, hey, the Federal Reserve, at least in the situation for Cook, we need to make sure he can't, meddle with that. But the independent agencies, other agencies potentially from this ruling, essentially they're saying, yeah, no, that's fine. You can let them go. You can fire them if you want. But these are agencies who are meant to be, helping, keep the administration honest, I believe. You know what I mean? Like keeping, things on track. Like, look, I get it. There are people who don't want to see too much government oversight, overreach, all that kind of shit. And then when any of these things kind of get peeled back, taken away, blown out, eroded, they're kind of happy to see it. And I get it. I can understand that. But at the same time, if you're going to let these wheels fall off, then nothing is going to get fucking done. And shit's only going to get fucking worse, man. So, you're not getting freer for this. You're not more liberated by these decisions. You're only probably going to be impacted in a negative way in the future from this kind of shit. So I don't like seeing that. I did want to read a little bit further, though. The court was divided differently in each case. In Cook, the vote was 5-4, with the court's liberals joining the majority, while they dissented in Slaughter, which was a 6-3 on ideological lines. Only Roberts and fellow conservatives, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, were in the majority in both cases. So yeah, they have the details of both situations in this article. I just want to kind of move on from this. It's in a certain kind of extent, it's kind of a snoozeville. I do want to add, though, with Cook, she's not exactly out of the woods yet. Essentially, they still want to try to get her on mortgage fraud. And if they were to, then yes, she could be fired on grounds for that. But essentially, the court said you can't preemptively fire her. That turns this whole thing into like an at-will or, hire situation. And it's like, that's not what this is supposed to be. So, like I said, on one hand, good. It seems clear-headed. I fuck with it. On the other one, it's like, okay, so you're just doing this along ideological. It's almost like you're throwing him a bone. Like, you can't touch this, but you can fuck with that. And, in that regard, Trump's like happy. He's giddy about that. But, obviously, he's saying, hey, we're going to get her for the mortgage fraud, which crazy that this guy of all people is talking about how we need to make sure that these people who have potentially done fraudulent things shouldn't be in charge of, our economy or whatever, governing our country, like, brother, look at yourself. Look at the fucking mirror, bro. But while we're in Trump land, while we're in the fucking Trump zone, from Axios, Trump surprised SCOTUS left $5 million E. Jean Carroll verdict intact. Gosh, I'm reminded we are hitting the Supreme Court, the SCOTUS hat trick today. My bad. Sorry, I had to take a little impromptu water break. This was a dub, at least in my eyes. The President Trump says he was surprised that the Supreme Court on Monday rejected his bid to toss a $5 million civil verdict, finding that he sexually abused and defamed writer E. Jean Carroll. It's another loss for Trump after years of trying to get the verdict thrown out. He has denied wrongdoing and alleged Carroll made false, politically motivated accusations. Surprisingly, the Supreme Court declined to review a fake case brought against me by a woman I never met. Decades-old celebrity photo line standing with her husband does not count, Trump wrote in a Truth Social post Monday morning. The case is really against the United States of America and all it stands for, and should never be allowed to happen to another president or candidate to be. Dude, like, brother, you're a rapist. Like, it is crazy. It is crazy that he is trying to jump over the river and through the woods to, like, undo history. But because he knows at the end of the day, legally, that's allowed to be said. You don't only have to slap an alleged on that shit anymore. And, as much as Trump tries, he can't kind of wipe this shit off. And then on top of that, he's like, he has to pay a bunch of money, which is like, brother, this is especially chump change to him at this point. You know what I mean? But he just doesn't want to pay it, I think, on principle. But whatever. I'm happy to see E. Jean Carroll get some, not just justice, but also I'm hoping that, well, hopefully one day she gets her fucking money for this shit. Let's see. The Supreme Court's rejection marks the end of the specific case. Although Trump's legal team has requested an appeals court reconsider a separate ruling, require him to pay Carroll $83.3 million. Because essentially, there's that for the verdict from the initial shit, but then he went on to say like, oh, they're like, I think he tried to accuse, he said some extra shit to her, sorry, and then got caught up in a defamation case, and now has to pay on that on top of it. So, he just doesn't want to pay it. He's just like added to the tab because I'm not paying. She's a liar, said the liar. Yeah, and that's our president, everyone. Anyway, I want to get out of America. We're leaving. I'm leaving Trump world. I'm leaving the judicial branch alone. We're hopping off. And we're going to go to Mexico. We're actually done with that Law and Order bullshit. We're going fucking beyond, dude. Okay? We're going Batman beyond, dude. Anyway, let's take our last break. And we'll close it out in Mexico. It is officially, we're having a hot week, okay? The heat wave is definitely hitting good old Cincinnati. I was driving around, like, it was like 97 degrees. I think they said with the humidity, it was like feeling like 107. Oh, boy, howdy. Yeah, it's hoochie daddy time, okay? You got the short shorts, it's time. 5-inch inseams, rise up. All right. From the Independent. Mexican Batman vigilante wanted for chasing down suspected thieves and taping them to lampposts. They're tapping them anyway. A Mexican vigilante known as Batman is being hunted by police after he allegedly chased down suspected thieves and taped them to lampposts. At least 5 men were found taped and unable to move from lampposts over 10 days in the area of Lagos de Moreno in Jalisco, western Mexico, according to reports. Many of them were reportedly sporting mustaches, cat whiskers, and had ratero. I'm sure I'm fucking that up. Raterio. The Spanish word for thief, scribed on their faces by the anonymous crime hunter. Some of them also appeared to be beaten up with bloody faces and visible cuts. The unknown vigilante was nicknamed the Batman of Lagos de Moreno by Mexican journalist Luis Cardenas. After local media reported they had become frustrated with the slow pace of local law enforcement and decided to take matters into their own hands. The first case was reported in the city of Lagos de Moreno on June 13th, but 4 other similar instances have since been discovered. Pictures show men tied to lampposts using silver duct tape, some with pink warning signs over their heads describing what they are alleged to have done. The bikes they are accused of stealing were also left nearby in a bid to illustrate the alleged crimes. The men were eventually cut free and released by local emergency services. Local police confirmed they are now in search of a suspect after Juan Pablo de Hernandez, the state security secretary, said police had recorded 5 such incidents. Salvador Gonzalez de los Santos, Jalisco prosecutor, told the Telegraph investigators are examining the cases. Prosecutors said they are investigating alleged thefts by the men, but that at this moment they are victims because they had been unlawfully assaulted and restrained. Now, I feel like this is common sense, right? Whenever we are covering a story about a vigilante, and I feel like anytime we cover this in like the States, it always comes off as goofy. I think we had the Guardians or whatever, the Red Guardians or whatever back in the 80s or whatever, and that was kind of goofy, then kind of good, kind of good, and then kind of has its bad spots, if you will, whatever, is what it is. But this kind of situation, how it plays out in the beginning in terms of hey, vigilante, this motherfucker's doing what the law isn't. And it's good, great. You're cleaning up crime on the street. You're doing it with a dramatic flourish. Fucking hell yeah. But inevitably, the law is gonna have to kick in. And in this situation, they're like, yeah, we gotta stop this shit. Like, now this guy is a problem for us, and we gotta deal with him. And then you imagine for the other end, for this Batman of, I'm gonna fuck it up. I'm not gonna say Moreno, or sure, just shooting that off the hip this time. You also got to worry about the fucking gangs. You know what I mean? So I couldn't imagine. I mean, you get, seeing crime on the streets and injustices every day, and you just don't, you can't stand, you can't stand it, and you do something about it. But it's like a lot of times in these situations, if it's not going to be the cops that are going to get you, it's definitely going to be, some cartel member or some fucking shit. I don't know. So, I feel like, yes, it's a noble endeavor, though we don't condone on this podcast. We disavow. But that being said, I mean, damn, I saw this story on the fucking, actually, no, I was listening to it, on the BBC, and then I was, at first I was like, I saw the article on the New York Post, and I'm like, damn, this is actually pretty good. But we wound up finding one from the Independent, which I prefer to, read off of. But we'll definitely see how this goes. There have been currently no arrests. Man, I guess I hope the Batman flies high in Mexico. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got for today. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, become a newsie today, get you that access to them extra thoughts of mine. Let's see, I'll do a roll call at the top of the month. That's coming up. Though I will say, I guess, it won't be exactly at the first of the month, but I promise when I get back, we'll do the roll call. Knock on the wood, all that good jazz. But, you get some old archive episodes if you want to get access to those too. But yeah, all for the price of a cup of coffee. I guess the region dependent, whatever. Let's see. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow on TikTok. Follow on Spotify. Follow on Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. Let's see. Leave a like. Leave a cool comment. Cool comments only. Just leave something nice. Say something cool, fun. I don't know. Talk about your day. Whatever. I would love that. Tell me some good news. I don't know, or bad news, whatever. Let's see. Sharing is caring. If you want to do that too, bump this shit, bump that. 5 stars, all the stars, wherever available. And then if you don't want to do that, that's okay. I just appreciate you listening. It's just nice. It's nice, like I've said this before, I'll say it again. Nice to know there's someone on the other end of this line, on this one-way experience that we have called a podcast, Isaiah's Newsstand. I just appreciate you hanging out with me, listening to, my triumphs, my tribulations, my rise, my falls, the good days, the bad days, all that shit, all the news in betwixt. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.